Hello and welcome to my AFK Helwyr guide for 2021. Whenever you're ready, grab your cup of tea, sit back, relax, and enjoy. To do this method, you're going to require at least 90 plus combat stats, 96 plus prayer, 96 herblore, and preferably 73 plus summoning or higher because you're going to be using a blood reaver. And at level 96, you're going to be using a Ripper Demon as well. Now, you can definitely do this method without any familiar, but I recommend at least using something like a Bunyip for passive healing. And the final requirement is the Animate Dead spell, which requires the City of Santistan quest to be complete. For those wondering, this guide is based on Frank's guide in the PvMe Discord, although I do have some different things or variations on that guide. That server will be linked in the description below. Helwyr is a boss with level 1000 combat, 200,000 life points, and it's immune to stuns. That being said, it is not immune to poison, which is why Cinderbanes are best in slot here. Here's a massive list of useful things you can use for this boss. Now, I won't be going over these in detail because in the gear setup, the majority of these things will be covered. Alongside a pet, bones, and the seal of the Syra, these are the drops you can expect from Helwyr. The average GP per kill depends on your Serum reputation, but you can expect anywhere from 257 to 360k average GP per kill, and that's including red drops in the average, by the way. Alright, as for the gear setups, ideally you want to be using a tier 85 or above magic two-handed weapon. You could potentially semi-AFK this boss with an unaugmented chaotic staff and Ganodermic, but it's really tough. I did try it out, but just to keep it, fairly consistent for most people, try and use at least a tier 85 or above magic weapon. Ideally, you'd be using the Inquisitor staff as its best in slot here. The reason for that is because Helwyr is a melee-based enemy, and the Inquisitor staff passive or buff works against melee-based creatures including Helwyr, which means it's tier 97. To actually be able to AFK, you're going to need at least 3 pieces of tier 75 or above magic tank armor. I recommend using Ganodermic because you can augment it and put perks on it like Crackling, Absorbative, and that kind of stuff. Absorbative generally isn't a perk you'd want to put on your PVM armor, but for this AFK method, since you're camping Soul Split, it's actually a pretty good idea. You can't augment regular Sea Singers, by the way, which you can see on the second gear setup being setup B, but you can augment superior Sea Singers. Now, you can see a Illuminated Book of Chaos in my setup. I'm not actually using it for anything, I'm just using it for the stat bonus. You can definitely use gold books for extra damage, but that will just ramp up the cost per hour, and Helwyr isn't the best boss in terms of GP per hour, so I just wouldn't use these whatsoever. As for the inventory setup, you'd want to have some emergency food because you do need to eat food sometimes. It does happen, especially when you get shroomed and you get a bunch of bleeds on you and you debilitate splashes. It does happen sometimes. You'll definitely want some emergency food, but it's really AFK. You want the usual super restores, weapon poison plus, a potion reservoir if you do want to AFK fully without clicking your potions, although this is definitely not required. You can simply click your potion every 6 minutes. You'll want Quorum Incense Sticks for extra poison damage, and you're going to need Soul, Earth, Death, Fire, and Blood runes for Blood Blitz and for Animate Dead. Having a rune pouch just helps save inventory space. It's definitely not required. As for the relic setup, if you're using 500 Monolith Energy, you want to use Berserker's Fury, aka the Darrock's Relic, Persistent Rage, and Font of Life. If you have 650 Monolith Energy at 120 Archaeology, you want to be using Persistent Rage, Berserker's Fury, and perhaps Death Ward to reduce damage at a lower HP count. Alright, as for the action bars, you can see 2 different action bars. One is from the PvMe Discord as of making this video, and the second is my own. The reason I'm showing you 2 is so that you have a choice, or you can switch it up depending on what's going on with your particular setup. If you're struggling, you can try the other action bar and see if it works better for you. I personally use this action bar with a variety of different gear setups, and the results vary depending on your gear and action bar setup combined. I'm just saying that it is, after all, a boss you're AFKing here and not some Slayer mob, so results may vary with both action bars. Now, in the following clips, you can see me using a different type of action bar. That's because I was experimenting with the abilities while making the video and testing out the different gear setups. So watch out with copying those. Just use one of these two. Don't look at the action bar in the actual video. Alright, as for setting up the instance, you're going to need 47 kill count to make an instance, and you of course want to set it to fastest. Once you've done that, you want to sip your overload, use Animate Dead, drink your enhanced luck potion, all that kind of stuff to get ready for the boss fight. Then you're going to stand 1 tile to the west of the central mushroom. This is the safest place to stand over a long period of time. In this particular example, I do use my quorum sticks a little late, but you want to right click and overload on those incense sticks and then click them a few times to have an hour worth of extra poison damage. Now it's worth mentioning that the best combination here is the Vampirism Aura and the Blood Reaver Familiar, simply because you're getting slightly faster kills than with the Ripper Demon, and because the Vampirism Aura helps you stay alive a little bit easier. Especially if you're using that Ganodermic armor, I highly recommend using your Vampirism Aura and Blood Reaver Familiar. Clicking your prey potions isn't as bad as having to eat food every now and then because you're getting mushroomed and slapped on your debilitate splash and that kind of stuff. It just is. Now here's an example of me using the PvMe Discord bar and Sea Singers. If you are paying attention to the video, you might see that I'm not using the Incense Sticks buff, and that is because I wanted to try out if it was possible without it, without the extra poison damage, and it definitely still is. Now, every time you see my health get low, that's because either Debilitate splashed, or the They Will Bleed attack hits you and you're getting mushroomed, and that can definitely get your health low. I wouldn't necessarily panic because Soul Split does allow you to get up fairly quickly. You don't need to eat food at 4,000 life points. In fact, if you're using the Darok's Relic, you can actually deal more damage by having lower health, which will mean you'll heal faster. Another annoying thing that can happen is when Sunshine is used at the end of a kill. This can happen with both action bars as shown. If this happens, this will mean you won't have Debilitate ready for the first special attack from Helwyr at the start of the kill, and there is a chance your health will get really low. If you're wondering about different auras you can use if you don't have Vampirism or Penance at the ready, you can also still use Dark Magic, Majorat. You could try Maniacal. I did try it for a couple of kills, but if you don't have Primeval Acto, I don't think it's a good idea, and there's a higher chance of you dying. It does mean faster kills, but it also means more damage is taken. I just wouldn't recommend using it at all. And that's all you need to know to AFK Helwyr. Just be sure to activate Animate Dead every 12 minutes. Don't forget, because if you do, you'll be dead in Death's Office, which is why I recommend using that Ring of Death. Kill times will be anywhere from 1 minute and 20 seconds to 1 minute and 35 seconds, which means like 30 to 32 kills per hour. And finally, before you ask about the spells, Blood Blitz and Blood Barrage do the exact same amount of damage against the target at level 99 magic. Blood Barrage only would be good for the occasional autocast where you leech off of the wolves in terms of health gain, but I think that's really minimal and not worth the extra rune cost. With that being said, if you enjoyed this guide or found it helpful, leave a like down below and maybe even consider subscribing, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.